Good evening, everyone. I'll try again. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's strategy-focused town hall on gun violence. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to this evening's Town Hall strategy-focused discussion on gun violence. Before we move forward, I would like to take a moment of silence for the horrifying event that took place in Texas just yesterday. If we could just take a moment of silence. Thank you. More and more, it seems that gun violence continues to show up and occur in our schools. And we all know that. We started the school year opening this year with gun violence at Mount Tabor High School, and it claimed the life of William Miller. We have William's mother with us this evening, and I would like for us to acknowledge her, Ms. Shannon Clark. I wanted Ms. Clark to speak, but after what she witnessed and we all witnessed on the news yesterday, her pain she's just reliving that pain and that devastation that she has been feeling for so long. And when I talked with her today, she was just inaudible, and I told her just her presence enough would mean so much. Before we move on, I want to thank and recognize my colleague, my most tenacious, extremely tenacious advocate on City Council, our Mayor Pro Tem, Dee Dee Adams. I want to also acknowledge other members of the city. I did see our city manager, Lee Garrity. Where are you? Thank you so much. I haven't seen any other city managers, but if we have other city managers present tonight, would you please stand so that we can recognize you? I want to thank law enforcement. I want to thank the members of the Winston-Salem Police Department and the members of the Sheriff's Department. They are on the front lines each and every day, fighting this fight head on, and we need to give them a round of applause right now. They have families too. They have people who love and care about them. They have lives, they have dreams, and we cannot take them and what they do for us for granted. We can never thank them enough. I also want to say that tonight's event was put together pretty quickly, less than a week. I did not do this by myself. As a matter of fact, most of the work that was done by city staff. I want to recognize our interim director of marketing, Mr. Frank Elliott. Frank, would you raise your hand so that we can shout you out? I also want to thank Frank's entire staff, our IT team. Let's give them a round of applause also. Many of you know that everything I do and everywhere I go, I have my sidekick, Mr. Melvin Akins, my assistant. And And I also want to say we were very fortunate tonight to be able to have with us to moderate this event a well-known media personality in our community and an advocate for us, Ms. Talitha Vickers. And I want to thank you, every member of this audience. You made this a priority, because it is. I also want to thank every member of our community that is live streaming, because you also made this a priority, as we should. I know that much of the gun violence that is occurring in the Northeast Ward, but I want to be real clear tonight. It's not isolated just to the Northeast Ward. It's not relegated to one location in this community. This gun violence is occurring everywhere, every ward and every corner. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a shooting at Haynes Mall. You all remember that. We had carjackings on Haynes Mall Boulevard and on Stratford Road. Things are out of control, and it's time for us to do something different, say something different, and it's time for us to come together. We are truly dealing with a persistent and growing gun violence issue, and it's not just going on in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This is a national problem. Now, tonight's meeting, tonight's town hall is not just about having a conversation and talking. There's a goal in mind. When we leave here today, the goal is to leave with some strategies, some actionable strategies that we can agree on and that we can implement going forward to make you feel safer, to make all of us feel safer, and for Winston-Salem to be a safer place. We have with us tonight over at the table Ms. Sandra Keeney from our clerk's office. As we list and discuss and come up with these actionable strategies, Ms. Keeney will display the strategies on the screen. We will have 4 categories, and we can create more if necessary. The categories that will be displayed are: number 1, likelihood of immediate impact strategies. Category number 2, likelihood of long-term impact strategies. Strategies that cost nothing, no-cost strategies. Also, we will have strategies that require funding. Strategies that require funding. So if I have anyone here tonight who can help with funding, if you have it on your own, if you can make a donation, if you know people who can, we need your help, because many of our strategies will be strategies that cost money. And I want to say, already I have been working since I've been on council implementing strategies. I've already implemented some, and I'm still working on others to implement that I do believe will, over time, make a huge difference. I do believe over time these strategies will inject hope. I do believe over time these strategies will provide access and opportunities. Many of you know that we had a gun buyback program. It was very successful earlier this year. And with that gun buyback program, I can tell you right now, not one gun that we collected can be used to hurt or harm anyone. So it was successful. Also, I have asked council during last year's budget to allocate funds for crime prevention and conflict resolution programs. It was voted on and it passed. We need conflict resolution programs in our community because we need to understand picking up a gun and shooting each other is not the way to solve problems. We have to learn there are other ways, and that way is one that we will not tolerate in Winston-Salem. I have also been working to offer after-school tutorial programs at the Cleveland Homes community and the Piedmont Circle community with the Housing Authority. Just this coming Friday, May 27th, I will be co-hosting a city job fair at Carver High School for our graduating high school seniors who are not choosing to go on to college, so that we can give them an opportunity to be employed right away with the city of Winston-Salem. I want the principal and assistant principal at Carver High School to stand up. I know that many of you are thinking, well, how is that going to stop gun violence? If you understand that a lot of the violence that is occurring because of hopelessness, lack of jobs, lack of access and opportunities, then you can make that connection. Before I sit down, I want you to know that I have been talking with the Mayor Pro Tem, the city manager, and others at the city to let them know I'm highly concerned that there's only one recreation center for our kids in the Northeast Ward, and we're in it right now. We need to do something about that. In the heart of the community where a lot of the crime is taking place, we need a recreation center for our young people and for our older people. And if you know of any opportunities to raise money, we need to make it happen, and we need to make it happen together. Additionally, we have police district stations throughout the city, but in the heart of the city where most of this crime is taking place, we do not have a district station. We need one, and we need it today. Again, another goal. You know, a famous sociologist once said that society is made up of many interrelated components. We have our schools, our courts, our law enforcement, healthcare, government, and these parts have to work together in order for society to function effectively. That is why tonight it is so important that we have at the table these critically important components of society. Let's give them a round of applause. Similarly, in order for our bodies to function, it pretty much happens the same way. Our bodies are made up of many different organs, and none of these organs can work alone. If the body is to function properly, it doesn't matter that your heart is healthy, if your liver is bad. It doesn't matter that your stomach is strong, if your kidneys are failing. Your body will not function properly unless all of these vital organs are working together. So with that in mind, we have to know that tonight we need you, we need the community, and we need the other components of our society working together so that we can come up with a strategic action plan that will help to reduce this violence that is plaguing our community. It's on a rise like never before, and it's time for us to come together and take action. At this time, I'm going to turn over our town hall to Talitha Vickers, and she will lay out again the ground rules that I'm about to tell you. You will, community members, have an opportunity to speak. We will have a timer on. Everyone will have an opportunity, if you choose, to speak for 1 minute. I just ask that we respect each other. And I ask that we understand we're all here for the same common goal. And it's going to take all of us working together, not criticizing each other, working together and coming up with some strategies that we can implement to eradicate this gun violence that is plaguing Winston-Salem. Thank you again, Talitha Vickers.
Good evening. How's everyone doing? Come on, we could do better than that. How are you today? Good. Thank you so much for having me here. It is such an honor to be here with each and every one of you. Often you see me on the other side of the screen, so it's nice to see a face instead of a camera this evening. And what gives me great hope is the fact that so many of you made a point to be here today. You could have been at home watching the news. You could have been at home doing something else. But each and every one of you from all different demographics, backgrounds, ages, and parts of our community made it here today because it is that important. And I just want to commend each and every one of you because I have been there to meet Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough out on scenes where there is death, crime, and destruction one too many times. And by you being here today, you are taking a stand and letting us know that you're not about it, right? Are you about it? Are you about it? Okay. So we're going to make a change tonight because of the fact that you are here. You are the VIPs in this room because you are the eyes and ears of our community. And so with that, we need to hear from you. We need to hear from you in a manner that we can convey our messages to our elected officials. We can convey our thoughts and our statements in a respectful way where we can activate change, right? And so each of you who would like to speak will have a minute to come up to the podium, or I will be going around with a microphone. We're just trying to figure out a little bit of those logistics, but just know that we want to hear from you. Chief Katrina Thompson wants to hear from you. Our DA wants to hear from you. Our pastors, everyone up here on this panel, our superintendent, Tricia McManus, we all want to hear from you. But it's not enough just to hear what you have to say. We need action, right? Right? So we want actionable items tonight that we can work on, and this is not one and done. We are not here to check a box. No. We are here to put these actionable items in front of you so that we can then circle back and hold each other accountable. Turn to your neighbor. I'm holding you accountable. All right. And the church said, all right, let's get it. All right, so I'm going to ask a series of questions to our panel that have come from you, the community. Now, this is just a small sampling of the questions, but again, we want to hear from you. So I'm going to start with Forsyth County District Attorney Jim O'Neill. And do you have your microphones up here to be able to answer? Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure. And so the first question is, how can we convince every citizen in our city and county that the responsibility to increase safety across all racial and socioeconomic communities belongs to all of us and not just those closest in proximity to high crime areas? How can we convince every citizen that it is not just their responsibility, it is all of us working together, not just those in closest to the proximity of high crime areas? No, I cannot, but I'm going to bring this over to you while we figure that out. You got it? Okay.
Can you hear me now? No.
All right. So for the time being, this is just like live TV.
Thank you for the question, Talitha, and Councilmember Burke, thank you for putting this together this evening. I appreciate everyone out here taking time away from your day to be here. And what that message sends not just to us, but to everybody in the community when we pack a house like this, is that people understand and recognize that the violence has got to stop. It has got to stop. And I'm sitting next to some of the best law enforcement leaders this community has ever seen. I have been here. Chief Thompson and Sheriff Kimbrough, I've been prosecuting cases for more than 25 years, and these are two of the best that we have ever had. If I could relay a quick message here about what we're encountering right now in the court system is this. If you see a crime being committed, people have got to speak up and report what it is they have seen. They have to be willing to get up there on a witness stand and talk about the harm that they witnessed. It's not enough just to call 911 and hang up anonymously and said that we just had a shooting somewhere. There's no follow-through if that's all we do. These folks go out every single day, and all the hundreds of officers and deputies under their command, they put their lives on the line every single day. They put a vest on to try and keep us safe and put themselves in harm's way. And what we need to do back as a community is we have to be willing to talk about what it is we saw, report what it is that we saw, so that the perpetrators of violent crime can be held accountable. It does no good just to call 911 and say there was a shooting on my block. You have got to be willing to give your name, provide your name, follow through on the prosecution, and the folks that are causing the violence can then be plucked out of the community and sent to jail. It's that simple. And that doesn't cost anything. We talked about the 4 categories we're looking at. That's a no-cost obligation. But we can, if we did that as a community, we could make a huge impact on the work that these 2 individuals sitting next to me and all the people underneath them are performing, the work they're performing every single day to try and keep us safe. But this has to be a team effort. Everybody's got to be part of the same team, and that is stay strong and be willing to follow through so we can keep our community safe. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. The next question is for Winston-Salem Police Chief Katrina Thompson. And this question from the community asks, community members are requesting the presence of more law enforcement. What suggestions do you have, or what actionable items are in place for responding to this request when we've lost over 100 police officers? You want to test and see if that's working?
Can you hear me? You can't hear me? Is it better now? Community is requesting more officers. Katrina is also requesting more officers. We have had, over the last several years, a decrease in law enforcement professionals. We've had a decrease in, and I'm not just talking about our sworn personnel. I'm talking about our civilian personnel who pack our parachutes every day, and we need them all. So I'll tell you, between the negative perception of law enforcement and, let's just be honest, there has been some actions by people who wear the uniform, had the authority, but they weren't law enforcement officers, not to their hearts. And because of their actions, the trust that we spend so much time trying to build has been eroded, and no matter how hard we work, that continues to happen. Some people will just never believe or never trust us. I get it. That does not stop me and my team from doing the work every day that we need to do to earn that trust, to protect you and to serve you. We have gone from having an upwards of 2,500 applications for law enforcement for each class to being down to about 200 applications. That is real. That's the reality that we're dealing with. And between the standards that the Winston-Salem Police Department holds and the requirements by the state of North Carolina Training and Standards, we end up with a class of about 25 people, if we're lucky, over the last 2 years for each class. I'll tell you, we're graduating a class this Friday. We started out with 25 people. 25, that's a small number for us. We're used to having, under normal circumstances, about 40 people in our class. We started out with approving 25. Day one didn't show up. By the time we got halfway through, and this started back in October, the class started back in October. By the time we got halfway through, we had lost about 4. We continue on and we lose more. We had one just 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks from graduation, who said, you know what? I'm looking at all of the requirements. They've met them all. They're waiting on graduation this Friday. I'm looking at what's going on in society. I'm looking at how we're perceived in the community. I don't think this is for me. And they dropped out. So we started out with 25. One didn't show up on day one. This Friday, we will graduate 15. 15. And they still have to go through field training. Statistically, we'll still lose another 1 or 2. That's our reality. I'll tell you that from January until June 1st, which is just next week, we've probably retired about 17. 17. So this class won't even cover the retirements that we've had just halfway through the year. That's our reality. So when you say you want more police officers, I tell you, so do I. Help me figure out how we make that happen. I'll tell you all, I grew up in the city of Detroit and thought that to become a police officer in Detroit was suicide. That was my thought process. I, at that time, had no idea what I wanted to do in life. When I did get guided, divine intervention into this profession, I'll tell you, I can't imagine myself having done anything else in life. I bleed law enforcement because I believe in what we do. And I'll tell you all, we need your help in building up the work that we're doing. You say you need us. Help us get people into our profession who has the can-do and the want-to change lives in a positive manner in our community. This is our community, and it takes all of us to make it happen. So help me recruit people to be a part of the Winston-Salem Police Department.
Thank you, Chief Thompson. As I shared earlier, this is a conversation. Typically, I know you wait to the very end of the town hall. There might be people trickle down to, the last few that have stuck it out to have their questions answered. Nope, we are not doing that. A conversation is a two-way street. So at this time, I would like to ask anyone who might have a question based off of what was said so far, or a statement based off of what was said so far, or a question unrelated to what was said so far, to please raise your hand, and I'd be happy to come over to you. And we're going to take 2 of those now, and then we will continue on with the questions. And so I saw, oh, perfect. I did see this hand over here first. Please just state your name. I'm going to hang on to the mic here. Stand by, because I will get in big trouble for not wearing my mask with my family out of my little circle bubble here, so sorry. If you could just state your first and last name and what your question is or statement.
Good evening. My name is Al Waitu Jabbar. I'm the president of the NAACP. My question is to the DA. You mentioned that people must share the information. My question is, what are we doing to protect those who share the information? Because that's a very important element in our community.
Thank you.
Should I grab that back? So if we're talking about how it is that we can reduce some of the violence, it also requires, and we talk about a team approach on this, and law enforcement goes out every single day to try and protect us. And I'm not embarrassed to tell you, there have been many nights where I went to bed worried whether or not the person I prosecuted that day was going to come and try and do harm to me. I have been followed out to my car after work. So, does it worry me? Of course, it worries me. But I believe that if we stand up and do what's right, even if it makes us nervous, the people that are committing the violence can be plucked out. But if we don't do that, this is going to turn into the Wild Wild West.
Okay, and just to follow up, I think many of the concern was exactly what is being done, correct, to make sure that people are protected. If someone in this room says, you know what, Jim O'Neill, I'm going to come forward, what protections do they have if they do exactly what you said, and they pick up the phone and they call 911 and they don't hang up and they leave their name and they say, listen, I want to remain anonymous? What protection? This is your audience right here. They want to know, if we do that, what are you going to do for us?
It is a crime for an individual to threaten, harass, or intimidate a witness. It is a crime. And we have prosecuted people who have intimidated or threatened or harassed our witnesses. That's a fact.
Okay. In terms of we'll get to the second question, because I said I'm going to do two. So, does anyone else on the panel also want to answer that question in terms of what protections by law or that you know of, that are aware of, that the audience will have, our community will have if they come forward to make our community safer? Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question while we think about that. And so the next hand that I saw is actually back here. So, sir, in the pink shirt here, if you can come up to the microphone, is this perfect? If you can come up here, and you got 1 minute. I see you got your notepad. You're a true reporter. I love it.
All right. John France, 4460 Oak Ridge Drive. I was kneeling down to pray. It was Monday night, and I had heard some gunshots, probably 6 shots. So what was I supposed to do? Go to the window, look? Nope. What was I supposed to do? Was I supposed to call the law enforcement officers to come and check somebody in the rain out shooting? So I know we said we had a negative now. We had a negative with police officers too, right? We are negative. As far as hiring officers,
we're in the negative for hiring.
Negative. We need 2. We're 2 people. You had 15 that passed, 17 to retire. My thought is what we're going to do with resource officers that we need in these schools, because I was wondering why was this school doors was open. How did he get in? That was in my heart, because I've worked in the school system for 11 years. And most of our schools are locked. And one thing, that can happen, I guess we never even dreamed of it, when the buses is changing, or when we are picking up students in the evening, sometimes, or when we're dropping them off in the morning, we don't have a resource officer there.
Okay, so we're at time. Thank you so much, sir. We're at time, so the question, I'll direct that to, thank you. So we'll direct that to Superintendent Tricia McManus in terms of what are we doing to ensure that we have enough resource officers. Clearly, we heard from Chief Thompson, we are in the negative, right? What else can you share with us in terms of resource officers, especially on the heels of the unfortunate circumstances in Texas?
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So first of all, I'm going to start with the doors. So there are access control points at all of the elementary schools, middle schools, and this year we've been narrowing the access to one point of entry in our high schools because there were many points of entry prior. And so we've been hardening our schools through the entry, one access control. You've got to actually use your voice. And I don't know what exactly happened in Texas as far as how the person got into the school. I don't know that. But you also have to be very diligent in when someone rings in that bell, not to let them in unless they have a valid reason for being there. So that's I don't know what happened there, but that's just as important as having the locks in the one entry. It's about how you ring folks in. As far as SROs, we have a strong partnership with the Sheriff's Department, the Sheriff's Office, and we have SROs in all of our middle schools and high schools, elementaries, and then we have rovers. We do not have a resource officer right now in all of our elementary schools. We have them, again, in all of our middle and high schools, and then we have those on patrol that also roam the area. Sheriff Kimbrough, I don't know if you wanted to add anything about the amount of officers, but that's what we have right now currently in place.
Sure. So as it relates to the number of SROs, we have them in the middle and high schools. We have about 40 SROs. Currently, we have about 40 SROs that cover the middle and high schools. We have none in the elementary schools. Today, we sent our staff out to the elementary schools. I think that before we go down that road, I think we need to understand how the dynamics work, how they work, so you have a baseline of what happens. So the county sheriff's office covers the schools that contract within the city and the county. Kernersville takes care of the schools out in Kernersville. The middle schools and the high schools, we cover them. We contract based on the requirement. If the question is asked, I missed the question that he was asking, but if he's asking, do we need SROs in all of our schools? Of course we do. You need SROs in every school in this county. You should treat our schools just like you treat an airport. Regardless of what people think it may feel like, the fact of the matter, the truth of the matter is, we're living in times where we need it, bottom line. And so as it relates to SROs, I think we need them in every school, if that's the question that was being asked to me.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I am W.S. Weaver II. I am the Assistant Police Chief with the Police Department over Patrol and Special Operations Divisions. And where the Sheriff just mentioned that they do not have the elementary schools covered, this morning Winston-Salem Police Department made sure that we were present and visible at the elementary schools within the city limits so that we could backfill that coverage so that our students, our parents, and our staff members understood that we were there for them to try and reduce some of the fear that was prevalent throughout our community today. So that's one of the things we did. Let me go back and answer one of the other questions about what's being done related to reporting crime. If you call in our communications center and say that you want to report anonymously, it will be anonymous. Your name is not entered, and even though the technology is there, we're not going to capture your phone number or do anything along those lines. One of the things that we do that people, complain about all the time is if we've had a major crime in a community and they said they reported hearing gunshots or whatever, as a normal part of business, our officers go through that community and conduct a neighborhood canvass, asking people what they saw and what they didn't see. That's just a normal part of what we do. So if somebody comes knocking on your door, it's not because we were looking at your phone number or trying to figure out who exactly called us. That's one of the things that we do. The other thing that we have available to remain anonymous is Crime Stoppers. We need the information. Point us in a direction to let us know what has happened. Tell us who may be involved. You can be completely anonymous with Crime Stoppers and let the police go out and do what the police do, or the sheriff's deputies go out and do what the sheriff's deputies do to resolve these crimes. That's some of the things that we can do to try and protect people's anonymity. We get it. We understand that you're living out here in these communities and that there are predators out in the communities that are doing these different things. And on both our sides, the sheriff's department as well as the police department, we have no choice but to try and arrest these shooters that we know that are out here. Now, I know that sometimes bothers people about us trying to incarcerate people, and that all of these different programs may need to be put into place to try and help people get this, that, and the other thing. But keep in mind, the sheriff, Chief Thompson, Chief Penn, and I, we got to stop people from being shot tonight. And the only tool that we have to do that is to try and incarcerate people that are out here carrying weapons illegally and are committing these assaults with deadly weapons against our other residents out here.
Thank you. And now I'm going to go back to the questions that were sent in, and we'll turn it back over again to the audience. One of those questions is directed to retired District Judge Denise Hartsfield. And Judge Hartsfield, you have created several programs for the youth, and so many people in our community have been wondering, what is there, what's available, what can be done to get our youth off of the streets, but also what strategic partnerships are being made to make sure that the youth are not being incarcerated, to keep the cycle going over and over of incarceration and getting in trouble.
Well, in conjunction with our superintendent, we finally were able to get a School Justice Partnership Act in Forsyth County. Basically what that says simply is, let's take care of student and school-related issues at school. When you start coming into the courthouse, it seems like it's a petri dish. You keep coming and coming and coming. So let's try to take care of some of those things through alternative dispute resolutions, conflict resolutions, by putting them in programs. Forsyth County is rich with a juvenile crime prevention council that has lots of opportunities. But when we come to gun violence, when we think about more violent things, one of the things that I think is an immediate solution or immediate something that we can start doing is we must make sure that the voices that are sometimes silenced are at the table. We can't always come being suited and booted and dressed up with our fancy names, with our fancy titles. We need to know what's going on in the street. We need the boots on the ground. That voice is missing, always missing. Nobody goes. And when we go back to the whole, witness you have to call and leave your name, people have known for years that poor people and people of color don't tell the police nothing. We have never told them nothing, and probably it's going to take relationship building and some accountability and some accessibility to make that happen. And once we get them to that comfort level, because we know that the word on the street is snitches make stitches, we know that nobody's snitching, but at the end of the day, we're going to have to get people comfortable enough. I asked every day, how did you get the gun? Whose gun is it? We got to get to the nitty-gritty. We have to get to the problem. All of this talking about whatever, we need boots on the ground. That's the first solution to help us get any partnerships, any accountability. We have to hear from the street team. If we don't hear from them, we'll never get a solution.
Thank you, Ms. Hartsfield. And piggybacking off of that, Bishop Fulton from Mount Moriah Outreach Church, you got the street team, right? And so you have some of the biggest audiences in our community. What are some of the things that our church community and initiatives can be done, or what is being done to reach the teams, to help with that partnership, to have accountability, and to also reach our law enforcement, to build that community partnership?
Well, I think the first thing as a spiritual leader the Bible teaches me that charity begins at home and then spreads abroad. It's got to start in your house, your neighbor's house, and then it's got to spread abroad. So what have we done as a ministers' council and other churches? We started a program called Project Grow. And we got money from the city, and we pay young brothers and sisters to come in and grow food, and they get paid every month. We spend time mentoring them. We spend time talking with them. And we're not the only program that's doing this. There's several people in the room who are doing the same thing, but we need funding. We need money. But don't let me just stop there. Raise your hand if you have volunteered in the Forsyth County school system in the past 2 years. Wave your hand if you have gone to an after-school program and read to kids and did anything to help mentor children. Charity begins at home. That's how we gonna change the system, by going into these schools, getting these kids at an early age and making a difference. So I'm at my garden at 22nd in Cleveland, and I say to some 10-year-olds who are walking by, they say, "Hey, preacher man, can we get some money?" I said, "Yeah, if y'all come and work in this garden." They say, "How much you gonna pay us?" I said, "I'll give all four of y'all $25 together." They said, "Man, you got to be crazy. I could go sell drugs for my uncle and make that in a few minutes." That's when I realized how clueless I was. These kids want money. The gangs are giving them money. They don't want a gymnasium. They don't want a basketball. They want to be able to buy some basketball shoes. Charity begins at home. If the people who came out tonight are doing what we say we're doing, then one child at a time, one person at a time, we can make a difference.
Thank you. Again, that was Project Grow.
Project Grow.
Project Grow. Write it down, put it in your phone, okay? And so please introduce yourself. 1 minute to make a statement or ask a question, please.
Hello, my name is Courtney James, and I'm the president of Support Systems of Forsyth County Transportation. So what I do is I work with the community court system downtown in the government building, and there are plenty of jobs through the sheriff's office where you can get a job. I provide the transportation. There are a lot of programs. They have taken the drug screen off of the background checks. They have taken the background checks down. We can get them out of town so that Big Homie does not see them. We need to come out of our silos and let people know that these programs are available. Sheriff Kimbrough, I thank you so much for supporting the community courts program, because it gives the community resources and it's coming from the sheriff's office. This has been very powerful. However, the problem is once we get them the job, because they are transitioning from illegitimate lifestyle to legitimate, they don't know what a no-call, no-show is. They don't know that they need to tell them that they have a court date prior. They don't know what it means to be late and they have to call in. So we need intensive counseling to help these people transition to legitimate lifestyles. But I do appreciate you, Sheriff Kimbrough, and I hope that you continue to support the community courts program.
And so our next question, the young lady in the back with the mask on, with the silver bracelets on, if you could approach. Yes, ma'am, you right here. You turn around, you right here. Come on up. Yep. Come I see all of you. I see you. I promise you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Janet McLaurin, and I, too, am a resident of Oak Ridge Drive. My question is the public park, in particular Crawford Park. There's a lot of stuff that brews at Crawford Park, and then it spreads throughout the neighborhood. September the 30th of last year, me and my daughter were in the house. 4 bullets hit my house. When the police came, they found 8 out in the road, but 4 of those bullets hit my house. I'm scared. My daughter is scared. Just the other night, we heard the same gunshots that you heard. Her question to me was, "Mama, when am I going to stop having to run? Her room is on the front of the house. So my question is, I know that the police officers are limited and you can't be everywhere all the time, but what can be done about Crawford Park? I know they have put up boulders, they have done many things to try to curtail the traffic in Crawford Park. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a big cookout down there. The cookout ended with an individual in his car. He went from Crawford Park to Lansing Drive, spraying bullets all the way up the street.
And so the question is, what can be done about Crawford Park specifically? Anyone on the panel?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I grew up on Oak Ridge Drive, and I have family on Oak Ridge Drive, so I get where you're coming from. Earlier, the chief talked about shortages of officers, and there's a saying, don't count the officers, let's make the officers count. And here's how we do that. We absolutely have to be the eyes and ears of the community so that we're all in this together. We have to utilize technology to leverage the shortages of officers, and thanks to our city council and senior management, we're using ShotSpotter technology. We are using NIBIN, and we absolutely have to take advantage of camera sharing. But I also want to point out when Pat Bishop here was telling you to put your hands up in the air if you're doing this, let's not discount our circle of influence. We have to go door to door as a community and get those folks who not on board with this. My colleague also mentioned Crime Stoppers, but I know that their folks are technologically savvy now, so I want to tell you about Text a Tip. Text a Tip gives you the ability to speak on folks in the community who aren't doing things that they need to be doing without exposing yourself. We're not naive as to know that it's not dangerous putting that information out there, but we are going to have to become courageous and do this together. That's the only way. So take advantage of the Ring cameras. Have these conversations over dinner. We all gonna have to stand up together. So continue calling, giving information to the officers, talking amongst neighbors, and giving us the information. That's the only way we can get these folks off the street and to the DA's office so they can be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Tip.
336-276-1717. Crime Stoppers, where they give cash rewards. When you call in the Crime Stoppers, they will not ask your name. You'll get a number, then you'll be instructed as to where to get the check. It really is anonymous. If they ask your name, you hang up. That's not Crime Stoppers. 336-727-2800 for Crime Stoppers. The Spanish line, 336-728-3904, where you can earn cash rewards for helping to get people off the street who need to be off the street.
I might be out of line for this, but I just can't sit and do small conversation without being truthful about this. I've been sitting here listening to everything that's being said, and I just can't sit still. We had about 1 homicide in the county last year, 1, while they had 40 in the city. I think we need to have real conversations. When we talk about resources, where are the resources being applied? What are we doing to close some of these gaps, some of these real social issues that create criminal issues. That's a conversation we really need to start having. The way things are divided, and it has traditionally been divided like that, the sheriff office covers the county. They give me a funding to cover the county. There's Louisville, there's Clemens, there's Blues Creek, and surrounding areas. The city traditionally covers what is known as inside the donut. We have been expending resources from the county that we don't have to do the things that we're doing. When the sister stood up, we robbing Peter to pay Paul to create funding inside the city and the things that we do. If we're gonna change this narrative, we're gonna have to close some gaps. What I'm willing to do, and I have to have the permission of the superintendent to do that, is that when school ends next week, we have 34 resource officers that I'm willing, because I contract with them, that I'm willing to say we'll set them in the city for saturation patrol. We just received funding from the commissioners for a juvenile intervention unit. That's 10 that we're working with the city on now. I'm willing to give up what I got to make this work, but I need you all to put pressure where it needs to be put. The pressure don't need to be on us. The pressure ain't on us. I need you to put pressures on the folk that control the money. I need folk because at the end of the day, the police can't solve this by itself. The sheriff can't solve this by itself. We gotta have some money to go with Grassroots. We gotta have some money to get people in the communities finding jobs. We found jobs for 250 people last year at the sheriff's office. We gotta have programs in communities to get people GEDs and education, and it's gonna require money. Because if we don't, social issues and lack of breed criminal issues. That's a fact of life. And here's a question that I gotta put out. I gotta ask this question. If we look and we talk about where or let's say most of the violence is being concentrated, we know we have incidents that happen at the mall, but where the bulk of them are happening at. I want you to ask yourself this question on the way home. Think of the number of financial institutions that sit in that zip code, and then I want you to ask the questions, how much do they give back to that zip code to change the narrative?
Can I jump in? We have seen drive-by shootings here committed week in and week out. And I'm going to tell you a fact. The fact is that these shootings, the overwhelming majority of these shootings are being committed by juveniles. Overwhelming. When we have endured this kind of violence, and folks, this is when school is in session. We're approaching the summer months, and there's not a person up on this panel that would disagree with me on this. We are all worried about this summer. You look around right now at this beautiful facility. Beautiful. When kids as early as 6th grade are getting out of school at 3 o'clock and they've got nowhere to go, productive, they've got no one watching them because oftentimes the parents are working. These kids are on their own. We have talked a little bit about resources that don't cost anything. But to follow up on the sheriff just said, we have to spend resources on after-school activities where kids can have a place to go someone to help with the homework, someone to be a mentor. And as I've said this before to our superintendent, it'd be great if we could have the money where we could also include a meal at night. But we have got to have a plan, and the plan costs money because we have to have facilities just like this beautiful facility we're in tonight, where kids can go where it's safe and be productive and have help with their homework while their parents may be out working. Because summer is coming, and we're all worried to death about it.
Just 2 seconds. Okay, so hang on. What we're going to do is 1 and 2. Come forward, please. One right behind another. We're just going to do 2 for now, if you just don't mind, ma'am, because there is order to all of this. Go ahead. Thank you. COVID is catching, so we need 2 people up here at a time. If I have not pointed to you, I'm just going to ask that you please sit down. I'm just going to ask that you please sit down unless I have pointed to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We need 2 people up here. Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you.
My name is Ghali Hassan. My name is Ghali Hassan. My wife and I are business owners here in the city. And I agree with the Reverend. These kids don't want to hear no more of your sermons. They want some money. If you got people out here robbing the pizza man, the paper boy, food trucks, it ain't the dumbest criminals in the world. That's what's available. That's the only thing they see moving with money. If you're not training these young people in this construction business, which we're in, then they're going to get it by any means necessary. And you just wait till they start coming in your neighborhood, because there ain't no more over here to steal. And what I'm telling you is, we have to allow minority contractors to get their share of the work so we can hire these people. I think the problem starts with you all. You. If you know the money is the problem, yet you keep it from the black community, how do you think you're going to change this? And I want to say this right now. My question to you.
Sir, we have 1 minute. So the question is, my question is,
will you
the question is, will you address the city? Thank you, sir. And the next person will be this young man right behind you. The question is, will you address the city manager regarding the money issues?
He said arrest. Bring criminal charges.
I just wanted to clarify something so we all on the same page. I don't know nobody up here that controls the money. They give me the money. I have to wait for them to give it to me. So I don't control the money. I need to clarify that. And I know that you say let it go, but I'll carry what's mine, and what's mine I won't carry.
The next question will come from you, sir, and then we're going to move to this side of the room. If I have not pointed to you, we are not taking your question. We will have decency and order. Sir, you are next.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Jimmy Bonham, and I'm a native of Winston-Salem. I have one statement with one question with 2 parts. The first statement is, crime and poverty is big business. Money has never been the problem in our community. It is the appropriations of the money. I looked at the county commissioners meeting a couple weeks ago, and Sheriff Kimbrough appealed to the county commissioners about a collaboration between the sheriff department and the police department. And he was denied funding for his program. His program, to me, resonated with prevention, intervention, and aftercare for some of these identified patients. or people or children in our community. What are we going to do? What are we going to do to help him and her to help us with our community? Money is not the problem. It's the allocation of it.
Thank you. And so our next question will come from this side of the room, which has not been hit yet. You will be first, you will be second, and then we will move on to another side of the room.
Good afternoon,
And
everybody.
it's 1 minute, so we want to get to everyone, so my question is.
Good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for coming, because this is what we need. We need you guys here, because you guys are the voice, you know what I mean? As long as we've been living here and all the crimes been going on for years, they hear us, but what do? You know what I mean? We have a few people up there, a few couple individuals that I can reach out to, call at any moment, and they'll pick up and they're willing to listen to the solutions, to the issues, to the problems, because I keep hearing that they need the people, they need the streets, because we're the ones in the streets. Talk is cheap. Bobby, you my brother, you know I call you at any time you're there. Ms. McManus, anytime that I need to help assist you with anything in the schools, in the system, and you gave us a chance, you gave us a shot. Judge Hartsfield, you've been there with the juveniles and everything in our community in the streets, and you said it best. For some reason, we got a plague in our streets, crime and everything, that we don't snitch, we don't tell, but we come amongst each other and we help and we know what's going on. Media's everywhere. The police know who, what, where, and when, but they won't criminalize, they won't, justify what's really done. The district attorney won't sit here and lock somebody up because they didn't commit a situation where, I'm saying, for instance, I've seen it. People snitch, or should I say, testify to an extent. Listen, we need help, we need assistance, all right? We need people to help and assist us, but they gotta do it, okay? They have individuals who will testify
to
certain things, but they go ahead and go to, and do to the extent of criminalizing.
Thank you, sir. We have to try to get to everybody. Next statement or question, please, sir. 1 minute.
Good evening. My question is business accountability. My name is Michael Buston. I'm the precinct chair of 306, Mineral Springs area. My question is pertaining that Rainbow Laundromat there. You know, one time they had the tent city in that area. I go with my boots on the ground. When I'm talking to people, they worried about going to the laundromat due to that homeless people are still living inside of there. It's nasty, and I just want to know, what do y'all do about a situation like that? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Would anyone on the panel like to answer the question, what can be done about the laundromat where the tent city was? Okay?
You can hear me okay? Yeah. So let me address a couple of different things. Can you hear me or no? Okay, so let me address a couple of different things.
Okay, so let us have decency and an order, okay?
Sure.
Quiet on the set, I heard that.
Let me address a couple of different things. I've sat on these panels before with the sheriff, where the sheriff said that it's actually easier for a child to get a gun than it is for a child to get something to eat out here. We know that. And with that being the case, the problems that we're talking about now related to gun violence, of course, is not just a Winston-Salem problem. It's occurring in every major city and some small cities within North Carolina. It's a national problem. And although it's got a law enforcement presentation, meaning somebody gets shot and the police respond, please keep in mind that gun violence at this level is unique to the United States of America. It is a cultural issue. It is a societal issue. To address specifically what's going on in both Crawford Park and I'll come back to the Rainbow Laundry up on Akron Drive. If you look at those maps over off to the side there, the map to the left, they're color-coded with the different wards in them. But if you walk up to them and look at them, you'll see on the legend that there are 4 different categories of crime that we have plotted to let you know what's going on. The map on the left is for 2021. The map on the right is up till Monday of this week, starting in January. the 4 different types of crimes that are related on there, and you'll have to walk up to see them. There's a blue circle that looks like a target. Those are people that were shot. The yellow circle with a J in it, those are firearm offenses committed by juveniles. The purple circle with an H in it, that stands for homicides, and the green with a firearm in it stands for offenses that have had people's homes or vehicles occupied, shot into. We're responding all over to the city to these types of gun violence type of issues in one of those 4 categories. With that being the case, to my sister from Crawford Park, we understand what you're saying. We're out there doing what we're trying to do. We're trying to get all of the gun toters off the streets. But keep in mind, once we start doing all of these license checks and stopping cars, the first thing people start saying, even though we're taking guns and dope, is that they were profiled. That's one of our realities that we have to deal with both in the city and the sheriff has to deal with in the county. So there are law enforcement aspects that we can take, but it won't be pretty to do. And that's doing a lot more stops that you see out here and trying to make sure that we're getting all these guns off the street, because now as these kids are armed with these guns, not only are they armed with guns, in the vast majority of cases, we find them in stolen vehicles. They're riding around in these stolen vehicles and just letting caps off. And so that's what we're up against. And we're trying to stop all of these that we can so that we can try and get a hold of this. But that's the reality of what's going on in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Michael Buston, before you leave, let me just tell you something. You know, you talk about that laundromat, you talk about that area, we see it every day, but the actual end of the day, we've used this word 10,000 times. I started to keep track. It's community. We got to take care of our own community. We got to get in there and clean up sometimes because somebody else didn't do it. You know, we've done it like that all our lives. I mean, that's the way it's been. You take care of yours. Don't look for a handout because we already got the hands we need to make it right. Yeah, we need more. We always need more. We always will. But that's when we talk about accessibility and accountability. You have to be accountable and let those young men know that you are out here doing the right thing. You're out here standing up. You can't be scared of them. You got to go and stand up and bring our community back to where it needs to be.
And as I make my way over here, I just want you all to know I am doing my best to get to everyone's question. I fought for everyone to be able to speak because the original order was to have questions written down and selected and do 5. And I said I will not be a part of that because I want everyone's voice to be heard. Please be patient with me because I'm fighting for you.
Isn't she doing awesome, guys? Isn't she doing awesome? Thank you very much.
Let me get your card. Give it to me.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay. Am I good, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
I'm a retired command sergeant major in the military, just recently retired, business owner here in Winston-Salem, me and my wife. But I was also, during part time, a school resource officer and a detective as well. We implemented a program called Students Against Violence Everywhere. Not only did we actually, it was free, it cost zero money. I had 13 schools that I was responsible for before having to go back to Iraq. And I actually personally took guns off students. Adults need to be adults. I expect kids to be kids, but we as adults can be adults. That program, I don't have too much time, but please look that up. It costs zero money. We pulled guns. We got the students to work with us. We got the churches to work with us. We stopped drugs, interdiction. We stopped everything because it's not just gun violence. It's violence and then violence with guns because it's a circle. Students Against Violence Everywhere. It was actually started in Charlotte. And I brought it into Wilkes County back in 2000 and 2003 before having to go to Iraq. So after 33 years and a master's degree in law enforcement, I get to be retired. I have one question here. When we do arrest people, how long, what is the average that they get bonded out very quickly? Because that's some of the things that we get we're hurt with on the street that I'm hearing is once we start saying something, they're out on the street before the ink is dry on our law enforcement. And, you know.
Sheriff Kimbrough, would you like to answer that question? And thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. The question is, what is the time, the amount of time after someone gets arrested that they are back out on the streets? I know that is kind of a loaded question because it depends on the crime, but if you could answer that.
The police or the sheriff's office doesn't decide the bond. So I have no control over how soon somebody gets out. I don't have a say in the bond. I don't set the bond. That's done at the magistrate's office. So I couldn't answer that question.
All right, thank you, Sheriff Kimbrough.
Afternoon, Pastor Yvonne Hines, Mount Sinai Church. I am in the heart of the Wild Wild West, Ansonia, Manchester, 25th Street. My concern is that is a hotbed. Is there any way where you know you have a hotbed that you can concentrate on that area until you clean it up? I have sat through sessions like this for 20 years, and we are still in the same place in that area. We have programs that we do on our own dime, but people are scared to come, a nice facility, they are afraid to come to 2721 Manchester Street because we have people walking the streets with Uzis and AK-47s in the broad open daylight. Can you do something to kill out that element in our area? Secondly, the problem is when we report problems, they are out in 24 hours. What can we do? Help us, please.
So I will tell you, thank you, ma'am, for that comment. The sheriff mentioned that we'll be working together to do saturation patrol. We will saturate that area, but understand that we can't be there 24 hours a day. And so at the end of the day, we go in and we basically use the information that we get from our citizens to, I'll wait until Wesley is finished talking to you.
We've heard a lot from our adults. We want to hear from our young people too as well. I'm sorry, Chief Thompson, were you done? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Wesley was talking to her, so I wanted to make sure she heard what I said. We're going to, the sheriff and I will put together, we'll get with our staff and get something over in Ansonia Street area. That is where we just had a homicide. But what I want you to know is that this is something that requires a long-term solution. It's not, we are not going to be able to be there 24 hours a day. What we want to do, though, is find out, and we'll even dispatch or deploy our community priority patrol there. And in that, we'll be out actually talking to the community, the residents in that area specifically, to find out information that we may not already know. So again, it's not just about us being there at that time, because yes, we can stop whatever is going on there, but it's about coming up with some sustainable solutions. And that's really what it's going to take, because once we leave, unless we have something that's sustainable, it'll come right back. Right. Okay, thank you.
So let me add to that also.
To work with Sheriff Kimbrough to come together and to meet with you too as well, correct? Yes, okay. And so we want to hear from a young person right now. Judge Hartsfield said it best. They need a seat at the table, but also to be heard in action. As she asked her question, this sheet right here, we talked about action. I'm going to start at the front, if you have information to help solve the problem, like that young lady did and gave out her card, sign up for this. If you would like to volunteer, sign this sheet with your email address. And Councilwoman Burke has agreed that her staff will be going through this and will be reaching out to you. Your question, please.
Hi, my name is Antasia Rowland. Hi, Flip. Hello?
1, 2, 1, 2. Try this one.
Hi, my name is Antasia Rowland, and we come from the FLIP program, the Family Love and Involvement program. And we just want to know, like, on behalf of the youth, what steps are being taken to keep us out of the streets and to keep us in a positive environment so that we won't have to go to violence. You know what I mean? Like, also we want to know, like, what is being done with gang bullying and bullying in general to keep that out of the streets, to keep that violence down. And also,
my name is Nadia Reeves, and I'm also part of the program. And one other thing that we want to know is we need to have more town hall meetings with the schools so that each student can know what's happening with the violence.
And involve the youth with it so that we can also be a part of the decisions that will be a part of our future.
Superintendent McManus. They're begging for it. Anti-bullying, they want it. They want more town halls. What do you say to that?
I'll speak to that. We talked earlier about school and justice partnerships and how those collaborations can be extremely effective. Well, we got a couple of pilot programs going now, one at North Forsyth and one at Mineral Springs Middle. So we're in some neighborhoods where we think that this could be effective. What happens is we're doing more alternate dispute resolution. We're doing more trauma-informed decision-making. We're looking at, putting people in venues where they can excel. We have kids who are going to Authoring Action. You have the FLIP program that you're in already that feeds into the Juvenile Crime Prevention Act. So the secret and the answer to your question is we have to know, community leaders and people in positions have to know what's available. You can't sit up on a bench, you can't legislate, you can't do anything if you don't know what's going on in the community. So community resources are available. It's just that we have not trained people how to use them appropriately. I have the FLIP card. I'll be in touch with the leaders of that FLIP program to help them place people in programs that are available. We have over 25 available programs, from culinary classes to acting classes to yoga classes, but we have to have an informed community, an informed leadership that knows what's going on. If you don't know about the community, you don't need to be in the job. So we're going to have to get that word out over and over. And finally, this is not an answer, this is not typical, but we talk about bonds and how people are getting back on the street, and some people call it catch and release or whatever you want to call the whole thing. Bond reform is an all-day conversation. Bond reform is an all-day conversation, but the bigger conversation is this one. For 20 years almost, I sat on that bench. And for 20 years, I told parents whose children were in front of me for doing some pretty bad things, don't post the bond. Don't post the bond. So you're talking about, these kids are back on the street. Well, they back on the street because their mama paid for them to be back on the street. Come on. We got to educate from the top. Sometimes tough love, that Medea TV kind of love is real. So how we gonna stop that? The mama, the daddy goes and pays that bond and they right back out.
There are some media outlets who are on deadline, and I would like to ask Judge Hartsfield if you can step into the hallway for any media outlets who are on deadline, who need an interview or a shot. Judge Hartsfield is available in the hall for 5 minutes. Judge Hartsfield, can you go into the hall to answer media questions for those who are on deadline? And if there are no others that are not available to do that, we will circle back and try to get you more. And so I'm going to work my way. I am coming. We have quick questions. These are rapid fire questions. Here we go.
My question is, I'm Leonard Green. I'm football director of the Winston-Salem Indians football program. And I want to thank you guys for coming out because you didn't have to do it. But my question is, because I know the youth is poverty, and that's a big problem that we have in Winston-Salem. And one of the questions I want to ask you, if we got $20 million in surplus money, there should be nobody in the city that's hungry at all. And a lot of these kids out here are hungry, I know you're giving them lunches like you say, you're waiting on the summer to start. I'm scared of the summer too. But what's the way we can do that? We're bringing back these summer jobs we used to have. I know Jim O'Neill, Mr. Kimbrough, y'all got jobs in there that y'all can give these kids to stack papers and all of that instead of the drug dealers giving them the money. If we got $20 million in surplus, we could give them the money. And that's all we got to do is work this together, come in it together, and do it all together. We got all these people in here that's saying they want to help, but let's see who's going to help. Like Ms. Hartfield said, we got to beat the streets, and that's the only way we're going to do it is beat the streets.
Thank you. I'm coming to you next. I'm coming to you next. I'm coming to you next. Ma'am.
Hi, my name is Artisha Tyson. I'm a member of Rally Up Winston-Salem, out here as boots on the ground, as you guys would say, walking in the hot spots in Piedmont Circle, handing out our flyers, doing programs out of our own pockets, not asking the city for anything, not asking you all for anything. But I am going to ask this panel this. There are a lot of community leaders in here paying for it out of our own pockets. I want to know what partnerships you're prepared to offer us while we're out here doing these jobs where y'all can't fill the spaces. You say you don't have enough people, you can rely on him, but you can also rely on us, but we need your help in order to reach our youth. So what are you all prepared to do to help us that are out here doing the boots on the ground?
So I'm prepared to have a discussion with you right after this meeting. So I want to ask one other thing. Talitha, I'm hoping that we're able to, because there's several people in here who have mentioned programs that they have available that I don't think the majority of us know about. So as part of collecting information, can we get that gathered and figure out a way to distribute that publicly so that other people can know?
Who has the pad? Who has the pad right now? The pad that I gave out. We can't lose that pad. We had it up front. I gave you the pad, the green pad. Hold it up. Who has it? Okay, add your name to that list. Add your program to that list. We are using that list. Sir.
I'm sorry, Talitha. I just want to address the young people in the room. I want to honor their question. And that is, I have, and I'm going to speak out of term here, but as a chief, I can do that. We have a Youth Citizens Police Academy that's normally for older children, but because they're speaking up, I am going to open that up to anyone who wants to be a part of it. It's 1 week, so I got your kids for 1 week, parents, if you want to involve them in the Youth Citizens Police Academy. It's totally free. And Dr. Pam Peoples-Joyner, raise your hand, ma'am. Dr. Pam Peoples-Joyner will take your information and provide you information on our Youth Citizens Police Academy. But for 1 week, totally free program from June 21st to June 24th, we got you for that week this summer.
Youth Citizens Program. Next question.
Good evening. My name is Derek Powell. This question is to the sheriff and to the police chief. What are you guys going to do in regards to more community policing? You talked about the lack of recruits, but what I see as a citizen, a lot of times the officers stay more in the car versus what it used to be when I was younger and where I grew up at. If you got the officers actually walking around on the grounds, communicating with some of these children or communicating with some of these teenagers, maybe you would have more recruits and we could cut down on the crime amongst the youth, because then you could mentally disarm these kids by showing them that the law enforcement do not mean them no harm, but they're actually their friends. What are you going to do, especially as we go into the summer with these kids and things that are happening with these teenagers? We got to protect these young kids.
Young lady said. So what we have done from last year, and we will continue to do it this year, we have a partnership with the Haynes Camp, and so any kid that wants to go to camp, we fund it for them at $0, all the essentials that they need. In terms of what are we doing in terms of partnerships in the community, the sheriff's office is in the community every day. We have created community outreach. We have a place in Piedmont where we help women get their GEDs. We at Sprague. I teach a class, thanks to Ms. McManus, every Monday. I'm at North Hills Elementary, have been there for the last 2 years, where I mentor a group of 15 boys every Monday. We take them on a summer vacation every year. That's just to mention a few things that we're doing in the community. But I welcome partnerships with anybody in this room, anybody.
Thank you, Sheriff Kimbrough. And to recap some of the things that we talked about in terms, we said, we're coming here for solutions. I'm coming to you next. I'm coming to you next. I'm coming to you next. Solutions, immediate impact strategies, long-term strategies, no-cost strategies, strategies that require funding. First up, scroll back with my teleprompter there at the top. Here we go. There we go. Engaging the silent minority, boots on the ground. Who's willing to be boots on the ground? 3 people, 4 people, 10 people. Perfect, great. Utilizing Crime Stoppers and text to tip. We have it in English and Spanish. Long-term strategies that we're hearing from our community is Students Against Violence Everywhere, town hall meetings for schools, including student involvement. Superintendent McManus, are you agreeing to that? Absolutely. And so, no-cost strategies, community involvement and accountability, parental environment, youth, citizen, police academy. And for the strategies that require funding, show me the shmoney. SROs in every school, recreation center, the police district, an additional police district, and for immediate, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office Summer Saturation Patrol. After-school activities with meals is an immediate need. Community patrol agents, and identify community organizations, again, boots on the ground, to partner with the city and county agencies. Please hold up that book if you have it. We need the book. Thank you, and it is coming around. We are making our questions quick. I want to get to as many people as possible.
My name is Frankie Petrie. My question is, you had said earlier, I believe it was Mr. O'Neill said, that if we knew of a problem, we needed to give the address and our name and not hang up so that the proper people could respond. Well, for over a year, my neighborhood has done just that. And every time we call, and there's usually 4 neighbors that call at different intervals there, within a minute after we hang up, the cars start clearing out. Last week, there were over 30 cars lined up down the street. We are prisoners now in our home. This person either, we have figured, must be an informant, or they have some sort of scanner that they know to disappear very fast. Each and every time, we are giving our name, our address, and the address of that house. It is a rental property, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but we need help. This is going on. We have actually told where they are putting their stash.
Thank you. Yes, right after her.
Ma'am, we'll get up with you offline with some strategies. I'm addressing you. I'm sorry. I was addressing your concern. We'll meet with you offline so that we can help you with your issue.
Thank you, Assistant Chief Penn.
My name is Eunice Campbell, and if I would have been attending this meeting last year, I would have been attending with a different mindset. July 2nd, 2021, my brother was murdered. He was gunned down, executed, shot 16 times. So when we talk about gun violence, I look at it in a totally different way. Totally different way. You have to be there. You have to be there. We need to address the systemic racism that has put us in this situation. And until we do that, we'll continue to have these conversations. How many of you voted in the primaries? Think about who you're voting for. Think about city council. Think about the budget that's coming up. We need funding. You need to be on those meetings for the city council budget. You need to be at the county commissioner's budget meetings as well.
How do you do? I'm George Ware, and I am running for the North Carolina Senate in this district. And what's caused me to jump into it, I'm going to give you guys the benefit. You do the best you can with the laws that you have. In my opinion, I think the most destructive thing that has happened in this country is the loss of the ability to get a decent education. Our public school systems have failed, and we have so many drugs on the street. People are stoned too much to pay attention. Children aren't learning anything. We're voting against opening charter schools in the state. They have a 4-time higher college graduation rate. My whole family are teachers. I worked in law enforcement in Florida in the 70s, and I watched the whole state of Florida be built on cocaine. And everybody in here has every reason to complain. Everybody's terrified. We've been shut down for the last 4 or 5 years, so what's going on has reached a precipice where things have just gotten completely out of control, and you see it every day. You're doing the best you can with the resources you have. And I'm telling you, Mr. O'Neill, I understand what you're saying, but we've got to change it. We've got to change our education system, and we've got to change the way that
It'll come on.
My name is George Red. I would just like to speak on the situation about police presence in the community. Years ago, Ms. Vivian Burke and I came up with an idea of putting police in the community, which we did. We have a place at the end of Gray Avenue for police to do their reports. It's paved, has a nice fence around it, and we had planned on doing 3, but you know what happened with her. But right now we have that at the bottom of Gray Avenue. It's in the community. And the police were using it at first, but now they're not using it. And it makes a big difference. What I'm saying is, instead of them sitting in church parking lots and places like that and across from BB&T on 311, this facility that we have on Gray Avenue, which was built by the city, is there for the police officers to come. And I think if we put more of those parking lots like that for them to do their reports and things, that would make a big difference with the police presence in the community.
Thank you, sir.
I try to sit here tonight without saying anything. I think if you know me, I have earned my stripes in this movement. But I want to say to the community, I've been hearing a lot of you all asking the question to our panelists, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? I want to ask you the question of what are you going to do? When was the last time you went to P-Mouth Circle and checked up on Lil Johnny? When was the last time you went to Salem Gardens, Rolling Hills, and checked up on Little Johnny or their family? It's time for you to stop pointing fingers and start pointing fingers at yourself. Step up. The community needs you. Chef Kimmer doing all he can do. Chief Thompson doing all she can do. Everybody is doing all that they can do. Now we got to do our part. So get in your car, gas your car up, and go into the hood and give back to your people.
I can listen to you all day. Thank you for being patient. Thank you.
My name is Teresa Hairston, and my question is, based on the facts of what happened in Texas today, an 18-year-old young adult went to an elementary school armed with a handgun, wearing a bulletproof vest. So my question is, are there any policies and procedures in place to track the sale of tactical equipment to civilians who have no need for bulletproof vests?
Yes, Sheriff Kimbrell, please answer.
The answer is no. You can order it offline.
The answer is no, you can order it offline. Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is April Hargrove, and I lost my brother to the violence of these streets in 2013, and his murder is still unsolved. So I come today from a different perspective as a young lady here too. 9 years ago, talking about violence would have been different. But now, my concern is, we talk about what you all are doing up there on the panel. But I feel like my first teacher was my mother and my father in my house. So I feel like when we start talking about the tier of accountability, we have to start at home first. Now, we can't just run out here saying, this program is not available, this program is not available, but are you gonna take them? You know, I've worked in a school, I worked at Kingswood. If y'all know anything about Kingswood, you know that, you got to be built kind of strong to work there. Well, I've seen it firsthand where there have been things in place, but the parents are not utilizing them. And I don't care what nobody say. So many people say, well, my child wouldn't do this, my child wouldn't do that. You don't know what your child would do when they're not with you. But you still have to have some idea what your 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old child doing with a daggone gun in your house.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience. Please hold up the book if you have it. We have some people on this side of the room who would like the book, so please send it this way. Sir, your question, please, and then I'm coming back to you. Sir, you are next.
Yeah, I don't have a question. My name is Joe Bunbury. My family has lived in this city for over 100 years. I have a couple of things I just want to say. I'll be brief. It's going to be unpopular. The Winston-Salem Police Department response time as of 2013, I think that was the last time it was correlated, was 3 minutes and 45 seconds. A lot can happen in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. But states with open carry have less crime. I did the research. States with open carry, violent crime is lower by 23%, murder rate 5% lower, aggravated assault 23% lower, robbery rates 36% lower. My point in this is that we need to arm ourselves and stop being victims. I live on Gray Avenue. I hear police sirens all the time, but there is no violence on my street, and especially around the 4 houses that I live in, because everybody knows that I am armed.
Thank you, sir. I have not gotten to this section back here. Sir, please stand and ask your question. Thank you for your patience.
My question is, there is approximately 185 days, 1,025 instructional hours that our children are at school. What is the Winston-Salem Police Department and Forsyth County Sheriff's Department doing to build a better connection with these students, to build trust and a rapport?
Thank you. Question is, what are the heads of our law enforcement department doing to disseminate and build trust within our community with our students within the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District?
I believe one thing.
They are, can you hear me?
I'm going to let the superintendent answer that, but let me just start off. I've heard a lot of stuff about school and, the long, hot summer and what these kids going to do. Well, I'm going to be honest. I sat in court every day. I had a young lady that works at North Forsyth that sat in court with me every day. And every kid that came before me, I asked, how many days have they missed from school? What I learned from that, they ain't going to school. So they're not in school in the first place. So the reality of it is, how do we save and what do we do for those kids who are doing the right thing so that they won't become a part of that absentee statistic?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's okay. I don't, you know what? Don't worry.
Good afternoon. My name is Vernell Taylor, and I know city life. My youth was in Winston-Salem, my teenage years was in New York, my last years was in Detroit, so I know city life. I wanted to ask you that the education, now the lottery was supposed to be for education, But we put more money into the lottery, but we get less money back for public education. Also, I heard a lot about correction and incarcerations, but I heard nothing really about prevention. Maybe you need to ask the kids what they want. They need jobs. Starting at the 12th grade is not good. At 14, give them jobs, summer jobs. We have the money, we have the resource. And I heard the young man say we point fingers, but that's why you are elected, to help solve our problems.
Thank you. I'm coming to you next. Where is the book? Where is the book? Show me the book. Show me the book. The book is on this side. Pass it around.
Good afternoon. I want everybody to look at that young lady right there with that little boy. Can y'all see her? When she came into this building tonight, she said, "My son has been bad in school today. My son has been in school today." Everybody in this room, those people up there, they react to crime. They react after the crimes have occurred. What are you going to do to save that little young black boy? Or he could be white, it don't matter, he could be purple. What is this community going to start doing together to help our youth? Our youth are dying by gun violence. Our youth are dying by drugs. It's our youth. What are each and every one of you going to do starting tonight to make a difference? Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. So sorry. You have a question? Okay. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask, I was on a Zoom call a few months ago, and many of you were on that call, and talking about different programs, what's needed, financial resources that are needed, and there was a lot of conversation about Cure Violence and a couple of other organizations, and I understand the mayor made an announcement that $3 million has been allocated to Cure Violence, which I thought was supposed to help stop some of the boots on the ground and the community violence. So we have that $3 million, and you're wanting more now, so what is that money going to go to that's different? And then I want to ask Mr. O'Neill, you talk about arresting someone, and if I understood correctly, if you're 18 and under, you're prosecuted as a juvenile. There are no juvenile detention centers in Forsyth County, and they have to be sent to another county. So they go, and a police officer said they book them and they go out the back door. So then there's no support. They do the crime again. And then the churches, honestly.
Just ask your question real quick.
Okay. Where are the churches? The churches help develop that family unit, morals, ethics. So I'm looking for some answers. I would gladly be a part of the help.
Okay, we need the volunteer book over here for sure. And I don't know who wants to take, go ahead.
I just want to say that most of these kids, ma'am, who are committing crimes and robbing people, they're not in church. Their parents don't belong to our churches. Their grandma don't belong to our churches. So everybody say, where's the church? We don't have a relationship with these kids, and that's just the reality. So we're going to all, as a community, have to do better to connect with our youth.
One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can you hear me? No. 1, 2, 3. Okay, go ahead. Quickly.
So I work for Housing Authority, and to answer that young man's question, they are doing things in our communities. I work with the engagement team, and the Sheriff Department and the Winston Police Department does have a strong presence there. And I'm not talking about policing the area. I'm talking about actually participating in programs with our residents, not just our children, but also our parents as well. We have a GED program that was spearheaded and partnered with Forsyth Tech, with the Sheriff Department, with Susan Fry and some others. We also have other programs within Cleveland Avenue Homes. So it's all about having a presence in some of the communities with the organizations, with the elected officials, with our people. So again, that's where it is. It's not just us pointing a finger at them.
And thank you. And we want to honor the program here, especially with, please give a round of applause for our panel who has sat through all of the questions. Please give a round of applause for yourself for being here. I have been summoned to the front of the room, and I have to turn it back over to the woman who had a vision in her heart to make this all possible. Please give a round of applause for Councilwoman Burke.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I just cannot thank you enough for coming out tonight and letting everyone know this is a priority, and we're going to work together to eradicate the gun violence in Winston-Salem. Before we end, a couple of things. I want every panelist to have an opportunity just to make closing remarks quickly, maybe 1 minute each. Then after that, I want us to look on the screen so that we can review those strategic, actionable items that we came up with tonight. And then I want to ask Bishop Todd Fulton to close us up and pray over our city. We need prayer, Winston-Salem, and we need to come together and make some things happen. So we'll start right here on the end with Chief Penn, if you'll just give us 1 minute closing remarks.
Yeah, let me throw three letters out for you. PIA, and that's an acronym. PIA, prevention, intervention, and apprehension. We got to have all three, and it's going to take the entire community. Don't you ever, as a community, discount the power that you have when you take back your community, when we take back our community, and anybody who thinks that they're going to come in our community and commit a crime, it's 10 of us calling, it's 10 of us using our whatever camera system we have to ensure that we're getting them out of our community. We have so much more power than we've been using. So let's join together and put an end to this nonsense going on in the community we love.
My commitment hasn't changed and it won't change. I'll be committed to this community because this community was mine before I ever was the sheriff. I will continue to use resources to create community programs, the GED program, the summer camps, the school systems programs that we work with, the after schools. I will continue to be a part of this community. All I'm asking is that when they have meetings and they're discussing money and they're talking about how they're going to cut it up and what they're going to do for the people that you see, I want you to show up in the meetings in full force like you're here tonight and demand that the money go where you see people using it in your community. That's what I'll leave you with.
So thank you all for being out here tonight. I would like to just remind everybody that there was a lot of calls tonight for law enforcement to show up in a particular community. But you also heard the reality, which is that the police department force is down 20 to 25%. They can't be everywhere. And our numbers of law enforcement officers has to grow. And one of the things we can do as a community, it doesn't cost us a thing, is to support Chief Thompson, Sheriff Kimbrough, and the folks that work for these two agencies. Support them and let them know that they are appreciated, they're cared for, and the people in this community love them and want them around. And then you will see the numbers go back up. Law enforcement needs to feel appreciated.
Thank you. I just want to mention a couple of things. I don't know if Justin Gomez is still here. Justin, are you still here? I don't see him. Justin is over our police foundation, and our police foundation has started a police athletic league. It's a small league, but we have programs available to kids in our community. Again, Dr. Pam Peoples-Joyner is here, and we'll also add that to our community strategies list to share with everyone. We also are offering a free T-ball program, and that program will be held at the W.R. Anderson Recreation Center. We need 40 young men and young women ages 5 to 8 years old, and the registration is at the Recreation Center, and the program starts June 16th. So again, these are other opportunities for our kids to be involved in something productive as opposed to getting involved in mischief and violence and getting caught up in gangs.
Thank you. Oops, I got too close to the mic. We have hundreds and hundreds of programs and partners, many of you sitting in this room, to have children involved. And I do not believe, and I say this all the time, that you just build it. Because if you just build it, they don't always come, people that need the services. So what I'm saying, we've all said it, and some of you have said it in the audience tonight, we need to bring people along to take advantage of the services, because your children are probably in the after-school programs, are getting involved, and so we need all to. But I will say another comment. Our little guys over there, by the way, don't let anybody tell you were bad, because I'm just going to say this. That is when you start, that age is when you start to disconnect children, when you use exclusionary practices in schools. You exclude them, they start to get disconnected, and when kids become disconnected and feel undervalued and feel like they don't belong, they start to look for other ways to belong. So our new code of character, conduct, and support that is out there is trying to change that narrative. It's trying to keep students in school, use trauma-informed and restorative practices. Yes, there are going to be consequences for misbehavior. Yes, there are going to be high expectations, but we need to not exclude kids, because I guarantee the kids on the street that are using guns have probably been excluded thousands of days out of school from the time they were little to now. We are going to stop that in our school district. We're committed to that, but we need your support to make that happen. Thank you.
First off, thank you all for being here tonight. We truly do appreciate it, and we're honored to be here before you and be able to hear what you have to say in relation to what you're seeing, and especially with your law enforcement function. We have been doing community-oriented policing since 1989. It's the only way we know how to do policing. And with that, we actually have a program we call Community Priority Patrol, in which we pay our officers overtime to go out in the communities. That program is loved by our community, and we have a lot of people that are requesting those services, and we don't mind doing that. That's not a problem for us. But keep in mind, one of the issues that we run into in Winston-Salem is the fact that people call the police all the time. And so we literally are running from call to call. That's a good problem to have, because our citizens trust us enough to call us when they're having various types of incidents that go on. We're going to come out, we're going to do them professionally, we're going to handle them in a manner that you would expect from a professional law enforcement organization, and we're going to try and resolve our problems as best we can, keeping in mind that we're really going for long-term resolutions on some of the problems that are happening. So once again, as you need us, please call us. Remember, you can call us anonymously. You can provide information to Text a Tip. You can provide information to Crime Stoppers. We're going to do what we can to try and reduce all of the crime that's going on in our community. Thank you.
Let me thank Councilmember Burke and this very fine audience who has come out. This is my community. This is 27105, 27101. That's where the numbers aren't good, but this is my community all my life. And I love this community. I'm going to do everything I can. We live in a world where we look at things in terms of losers and winners. I'm right here burning my phone up, hoping that I don't miss game number 6 of the Miami Heat, because the reality of it is we operate on losers and winners. But in this conversation, the only losers are our children. The only losers are our children. And we must make a commitment to do everything we can to give every child a better life. The worst thing we can do, and if I didn't learn but one lesson on the bench, was that we can't treat children like adults. I'm gonna say that one more time. You get nowhere when you try to treat children like adults because they're not adults. That's why they're in the positions that they are, and we have to nurture and take them to that point. So I close with the words of Teddy Riley. It's time to make that change, and we are the people who can do it.
I want to just say thank you one more time to our outstanding panelists. Let's give them another round of applause. The book that's circulating around, if we can get that book back up to the front, we really need it. And what I'm going to, okay, we have it right here. Bryce has it. Bryce asked for your information, and Bryce will reach out to you. What I'm going to do is ask city staff if it's possible to compile that list and have it have a digital copy of it on our website. We all need to know about the programs and opportunities in our city. We all need to know what's available immediately with summer coming for our elementary, middle, and high school students and for our adults. So we will ask for that to be placed on the website. I want to go back through and review our actionable strategies because that was the goal, the end goal of tonight. So I'm going to start with those strategies that will give us immediate impact. And they are engaging in silent majority boots on the ground, utilizing Crime Stoppers and report crimes. Also, the text tip hotline, and the number was given out, and you can go on the website. Additionally, utilizing and creating more inter-community locations for police officers to do police reports and passive patrol. Also, the Police Athletic League that Chief Thompson told us about in partnership with the Anderson Center. The recreation basketball and T-ball program this summer that's free for our youth. Long-term impact strategies we talked about. Students Against Violence Everywhere, SAVE. Town hall meetings for students, including student involvement and participation. Those no-cost strategies that we came up with tonight include community involvement and accountability, parental involvement, and Youth Citizen Police Academy. Strategies that require funding. SROs in every school. The sheriff said that's what we want. Elementary, middle, and high. That will require funding. One strategy that I remember that's not up there, saturation patrol. It needs to be up there. And Sheriff, would that go under strategies that require funding? Okay. Okay, thank you so much. He was clear. So tonight, we can all say, take a picture of the screen before you walk out the door. We have some strategies. And this is not going to be a one and done. We're coming back together. We're going to talk with city staff. We're going to see what kind of research we can do and how we can pull all of this together so that we can move forward and implement the strategies that we, our leaders, and our community members came up with. Before we close and before I turn it over to Bishop Fulton, I want to take the time to recognize every elected official we have. All elected officials, please stand. I've seen some throughout the room. Okay. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting this gun violence town hall. Again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Turning it over to Bishop Todd Fulton to take us home.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Burke. Can we give her an encouraging hand? Now, before I give you the prayer, if everybody will show up at the city council meetings the way we showed up tonight, if everybody will show up at the county commissioners meeting the way we showed up tonight, if everybody get a bus and we go to Raleigh and show up the way we did tonight, we will be able to make some change. All right? One thing at a time, we can change and turn this system around. Let us pray. God our Father, God our Mother, we thank you for everyone who is concerned about our city, our county, who showed up not to fight, but to figure out how we can work together. Blacks, white, Hispanics, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Protestants. We ask that you will protect our children when we put them on the bus, that you will bless us so that they will come back home the same way that we sent them off. We ask now, God, that you will dispatch angels in our schools that will protect our children, the same angels that my grandma would say all day and all night. Angels are watching over us. Bless our law enforcement. Bless our community at large. It is in your holy name we pray. And all the people say it. Amen.